let's bring in an expert opinion. Let's bring in the Libertarian candidate for Vice President, Wayne Allyn Root. Welcome, Wayne, to Left, Right, and Correct with Dan Before and Friends.
Thank you, Dan. Glad to be aboard.
What do you think? I'm talking here with Ann Jewell about the foolishness of the marijuana laws, which fortunately the citizens of Massachusetts are going to be able to end by citizen initiative come November.
Well, my best answer to that is that when you look at Parade magazine, which I consider America's Sunday newspaper, it's in every newspaper on a Sunday when every family man and woman is home reading the paper, that kind of guides my views on things. And they ask the question, what's the most important issue for the next president of the United States? And in America, we're such a divided country. If you get 55%, that's a landslide. 91% said the economy is the next issue. And I think marijuana is an economic issue. I really do. I think we're wasting billions and billions of dollars of taxpayer money on police and on prisons and on ruining people's lives and killing their economic activity by going after people for the most minor offenses that are really a health issue and would be better served with rehab than with prison. So, the economy is stupid, as James Carville would say, and I think the war on drugs and particularly the war on marijuana is an issue of economic proportions, and I think that it's taking away billions of dollars from the American economy to create a police state.
Yes, that is the correct answer. .com, Wayne Allyn Root. Root for America is your website. I imagine you still have your obviously you do because I just checked it out. You still have your presidential website there.
Yes, my site is rootforamerica.com, and I'm also, of course, partners with my presidential running mate, Bob Barr, and his site is bobbarr2008.com. And by the way, Bob and I both think that drug issues are better left to the states to decide. They should be decided like California did, as an example. They legalized medical marijuana, but the federal government keeps intruding on that decision. People who believe they're on the right side of the law and are dispensing medical marijuana only if you've got a prescription from a legal doctor, and they are on the right side of the law in California. They have their clinics raided and their bank accounts seized by the federal government, and that's what's the matter with our country, a usurping, draconian federal government that tries to take over everything and anything in this world, which is not what the Constitution intended. The Constitution literally said, if it isn't in here, basically what it said is, if you don't see it in here, then it belongs to the states or the individuals. So Bob and I believe things are better left on the state and local level. Let each state decide for themselves what they want to do about drugs.
Correct. Again. Of course, you and I agree probably 95% of the time on the issues. You did a great job, I thought, at the Libertarian National Convention, of which I was a delegate, and happy to support you and Bob as our presidential ticket.
Thank you.
Sure. And we got some good news out in Massachusetts, too. Not only do they have an opportunity to end decriminalize marijuana, but they also have an opportunity to end the income tax in Massachusetts with the smallgovernmentact.org. Carl Howell's organization out there has put that together. And you and Bob are promoting ending the federal income tax. Now, wouldn't that be great if we can get both of those things done this November?
It would be, although we're both Barry Goldwater disciples, and Barry Goldwater always correctly said, and he wrote all these things in the 1950s. It shows you things never change. 1950s, of course, a half century ago, Barry Goldwater said in Conscience of a Conservative that before you worry about tax cuts, the first thing you've got to do is cut the spending dramatically. And so, of course, we discussed the war on drugs. If you want to discuss the war in Iraq and foreign aid and military bases around the world, and we've got to cut all of that dramatically. Maybe not all of it. We've got to maintain national security, but there is fat in the government budget, in the military-industrial complex. There is waste of epic proportions, and it's a scandal. And we've got to cut all that. We've got to cut entire departments like the education department. $70 billion odd a year spent on the federal level, and education just keeps getting worse. A complete waste of taxpayer money. We need to cut it dramatically and then move it to the state and local level and give people vouchers so they can decide what they want to do with their own money, with their own kids' education. So there are all kinds of cuts that Bob and I propose. First, you cut the budget dramatically. Then you worry about how to either eliminate the federal income tax, or if you have such opposition from Democrats and Republicans in Congress that you can't make it happen, then you certainly choose to cut it dramatically with either a flat tax or a national sales tax called a fair tax. One of those. Yes.
Again, thecorrectanswer.com from Wayne Allyn Root and Bob Barr. Yes, definitely the fair tax. I think it addresses the Democrats' concerns for the poor. So they say they're concerned for the poor. because of the prebate feature, whereas everyone would receive a check, which would be essentially reimbursing you in advance for the taxes that you would pay up to the poverty level.
Having said that, let me tell you what I don't like about that aspect of it, Dan. It's a government welfare program. In other words, every human being in America, or I should say every family head in America, will start to expect that the government is going to give them a $4,000 check every year, or whatever the number is.
Right.
That's a pretty scary thing. That's like a whole new Social Security program, a whole new welfare program. You know, Social Security, all they're doing is they're giving you back your own money.
Right.
So if they had just let you keep your money in the first place, you'd feel like it was yours instead of that you need the government's help. All they're doing is using your money to give it back to you.
That's true.
And so here the same thing would happen with a fair tax. That's what I don't like about it. I don't want the government to give people checks. I want them to let you keep your own money and make your own spending decisions about your own money. I personally am a fan of either getting rid of the income tax, I'd love that, so we could end the IRS as we know it, or a flat tax, you know, like in some of the former Soviet republics like Georgia and Latvia and Slovakia, et cetera, those countries have a 10 to 12% flat tax. I'm not sure if we could get ours that low, but maybe a 15% flat tax that still includes a mortgage and a charitable deduction, which are probably the two most important deductions in our country today, and simply use that, which means you can fill your taxes out on a postcard. Here's how much I made, subtract my mortgage, subtract my charity, and